Maryland football loses out on a big recruit.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, current account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland football loses out on a big recruit, or maybe I should word it better. Maryland football faces a big decommitment in the 2026 class. So you guys, I think a lot of you guys saw, but a big part of Maryland's 2026 class, Khmari being decided to decommit from Maryland football. The kid was from St. Francis, so he was with a lot of the Maryland football 2026 class. We have a bunch of different guys from St. Francis, most notably five-star Zion Ely, who we all think is going to be the next, not just big thing, but huge thing for Maryland football. We have Damon Hall Jr., the St. Francis tight end. Those are a couple players that we have from St. Francis. So including Khmari, we had four players that were currently from St. Francis committed, which was pretty kind of crazy to have that many, or three, sorry. We had three players from St. Francis committed, which is pretty crazy to have. But now Khmari Bing decides to decommit from Maryland. So I wanted to talk about this first because I think there's a couple different ways to look at this. Obviously, you start with the player Khmari Bing is, and start with some of that before we get out to like kind of the bigger take of this. And obviously, I think he was a little bit under-recruited at the start. Not like the biggest kid in the world. Like some corners, the guys that get some of the big-time offers, it's like they're 6'2", and their arms are long as can be and have all these physical traits. I think a guy like, I don't know if you guys know DJ Pickett, LSU corner, who's played a lot this year, was a five-star, one of the top-rated recruits in last year's class as a freshman this year, like 6'3", long arms, like freakish type of guy. And Khmari Bing's kind of your typical size corner. He's not small by any means. That 6 foot 190, 247 has him at. But I do think we did get a little bit lucky. Not lucky, but we were on one of the better sides of Khmari Bing. And one thing you see about Maryland football today is that we're doing a really good job of recruiting players that a lot of people might not expect to be maybe elite, or a lot of people might not expect to be your five-star. Like, think of a guy like Sidney Stewart. Didn't play his senior year, went under-recruited. All of a sudden, he might be the best freshman pass rusher in the college. And I promise if we did it again, I bet he'd have Alabama. I bet he'd have Georgia looking at him. I bet he would have Ohio State throwing a bag at him. We have different players like that might go under-recruited but end up being really solid, like Carlton Smith. 3-star rated linebackers, playing a ton of snaps for us, had a really good game. And I think that's exactly what Khmari Bing was. I thought he was a guy that it's not like he doesn't have, or I want to make this clear. He has offers, and that's part of the reason why he's decommitting. But when we first got him, I think he was a little bit not under-recruited in a way. Like, he had plenty of offers, but I don't think people realized how good he was. And I think Maryland knew they got somebody that was a really good high-end player. So the fact that he's decommitting definitely hurts, because some of the big dogs came in and it seems like kind of steered him away from Maryland. Like, he just went on a visit to Ohio State. I think that's a big reason why. I know Indiana's also in the conversation. Indiana's been really good recently. And so part of this is like, okay, a program like Ohio State, they're just a little bit bigger, badder program right now. They're obviously going to be able to sway kids, but part of this is also, I think, on Maryland. When you lose games like this against Washington, like, I don't know if he would have decommitted if we won that game against Washington, but you feel like games like that sway a kid. When a guy's thinking about it, when a guy is really kind of processing it, really wants to do something, and it's like, okay, I'm like halfway there. I'm not sure. Let's see the Maryland. I'm not saying this is exactly how it went, but this is kind of how I see it. Let's see how Maryland plays against Washington. We're up 20-0. We blow the lead. I was a recruit, I don't know if I 100% would be in on that or 100% would want to be part of that. And I think that's partly what happened to Khmari Bing. And I said I would start with him as an individual player. I think he is a little bit underrated still. I think some of the big schools are starting to kind of catch on to him. He's ranked 117th ranked corner on 247's rating. On 247 composite, he's ranked as the 76th ranked corner, 914th ranked nationally. I promise you, if he commits to Ohio State or like Bama, it probably goes up to like 4-star status. That's just the way it is. But it definitely, looking at it as a greater scope for our football team, I don't want to say it's really concerning, but it is a little bit concerning because if you look at our 2026 class, it's just not where I want it to be. And I don't think it's where the fans want it to be. There's no depth. It's top heavy to like a whole nother level. It's like, okay, we got this big recruit in Zion Ely, 5-star. We've never had a recruit like this. But football isn't played by one guy. One guy don't get you to bowl games. One guy doesn't make you take a next step as a program. I don't care who it is. And so, yeah, Zion Ely's awesome. But after that, it's like, who are notable players that we feel really good that can make an high-level impact on Maryland football? And to me, there's just not really many that I look at right now. Like, I like Hakeem Satterwhite. The corner has some size at 6'2". I think he's going to do some good things. I think there's some other good players, but there's nobody I'm like, yeah, that guy's going to be really good. Like last year, we probably had 5 or 6 guys. I was like, yeah, they can play. And so I think losing a guy like Khmari Bing, who was arguably the next best player in that class, and obviously we don't really know until we get to campus. Like we know Zion Ely's probably going to be the best player in that class. My next guess was probably Khmari Bing, maybe Hakeem Satterwhite, both the corners. But when you lose a guy and your class isn't already deep, it hits. It hurts Maryland football. And I think Khmari Bing was going to end up being a pretty good player. And I'm just starting to question, are other decommits coming? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what's going to happen. I doubt that's what's going to happen. But I do think there's a real world, not where people start decommitting, but people start kind of questioning Maryland football a little bit. I mean, I think we've been holding on to Zion Ely. I don't know how we're quite doing that. And so it's kind of interesting where we're at with things in the recruiting and how we have to handle it. But losing Khmari Bing to me is a big deal. And I thought he was going to be a starter eventually for us. And it was good pipeline to St. Francis. And the other part about this is those St. Francis kids, they're all friends. And I'm not saying he could steer Zion Ely away or Damon Hall Jr., but it definitely don't help. It definitely doesn't help when they see, oh, he's going to Ohio State. Like Zion Ely's like, oh, he's going to Ohio State. Like we're not doing this thing at Maryland together anymore. It definitely can do something and have an effect. I'm not saying it's completely going to affect it, but I do think it's something that can potentially hurt Maryland football and something that is really important for Maryland football to be able to handle. I do think we need other recruits. We only have like 11 players in the class. I think to me, Mike Loxley wants to use the portal, and that's totally fair, and I'm good with that. But I do still think we need some high school players that we feel good about for Maryland football. Let's talk about the offensive struggles right now for Maryland football. The offense isn't struggling completely, but there's just something that I'm seeing that might not go well for the rest of the year. We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is so much fun, simple, and way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more than or less than on player projections like Josh Allen passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is, and you can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part is Prize Picks just add stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click. And the new inquiry reboot feature. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So I think this is a little bit of a prediction. Maryland's offense is in some trouble. I really believe that, and I think it has to get cleaned up quickly. And I don't know if it can be fixed. I want to be like it needs to get cleaned up, but I'm also not 100% sure this Maryland offense is going to be able to get fixed. It's not broke right now, so I don't want to act like our offense isn't a pretty good unit, but I can see it starting to teeter it off and become worse and worse and worse over the span of the season. I think it starts with this. There's way too much pressure on Malik Washington. For a freshman quarterback, we all think the kid's special. We all think the kid's elite. But I don't care what quarterback it is. I don't care who it is. There's a certain amount of pressure that a freshman quarterback should have on them, and it's not as much as Malik Washington should have. I think part of the reason Michigan's so attractive for a kid like Bryce Underwood, who you guys all know, 5-star rated recruit, number one player in that class, having a pretty good year as a freshman quarterback. When you go to Michigan, you know that there's not going to be a ton of pressure on the quarterback position relative to other quarterbacks. Obviously, it's still quarterback at the University of Michigan. It's still not easy. But when you think about J.J. McCarthy and what he did, when you think of what Bryce Underwood is doing now, they hand off the ball a ton, and you know the run game is going to be effective, as well as their defense is probably going to be pretty good as well. So you're going to have other components of your football team, your offensive line as well, that are definitely pretty good. And right now, Maryland offensively isn't doing much at all to help Malik Washington. Not much at all. And so I think how he's playing is even more kind of impressive. I think it's even more elite than what we kind of realize it is, because he's just not getting much help at all. One thing is, I've talked about it almost every episode, I feel like, but I want to talk about, since now we're 5 games in now, like that's almost halfway through the college football season, which is absolutely crazy to me. I still feel like we're early on in the season, but when you look at Maryland's rushing stats for the entire year, it's abysmal. It's terrible. And half the games we've played haven't even been against, more than half the games we played haven't even been against teams in the Big Ten that we should have, or teams not in the Big Ten, but teams we have to worry about. And then the teams that we played in the Big Ten should be some of the better teams to be able to run the ball on so far this year. And so if you look at the run game, it just signals to yourself there's way too much pressure on Malik Washington. Right now, Maryland backs average 3.3 yards per carry in total. All of our rushing attempts together, 3.3 rushing yards. Our 2 leading rushers, our 3 leading rushers actually all have the same average. DeJuan Williams, 3.5. Nolan Wright, 3.5. Iverson Howard, 3.5 average. It's not like one guy's playing miraculously more elite than the others. They're all playing about the same, and it's pretty dang bad. And when you think about it for Malik Washington and what he has to do and how many times we're throwing the football, it just isn't going to work. It just isn't. It's way too much throwing the football. It doesn't even compare. We've thrown the ball 195 times. We've ran the ball 143 times. And that includes 11 carries from Malik Washington, and another 3 carries from Christian Martin, and another carry from Roman Jensen. So it's even less when we talk about pure running backs. And when you look at Maryland's schedule, the defense is going to be pretty good top to bottom, the teams you play. And yeah, we might be able to do some things passing the ball, but it ain't going to be consistent. It's just not. Like, I like the Maryland receiving core. I love Malik Washington. But if you think every single game we're going to be able to get away, and it showed against Washington, we can't put people away. We can't. And if you think every single game we're going to be able to figure out a way to win games with not being able to run the ball, is just not going to happen. It's just not. And I hate to say it, I don't have any belief in us figuring it out. It's been a trend under Mike Locksley for his entire time. I think the couple of trends that have been under Mike Locksley is it's a trend that's usually pretty bad with college football teams that are just average or below average. Lack of pass rush, that is something that we've gotten better at this year, getting the freshmen. And I think offensive line play has been something else, and then as well as running the football. Since the year Roman Hemby's redshirt freshman year when he had a really good year, we haven't really been effective at it at all. And it's been a regression under Mike Locksley. And it's really bad to see because you have this super talent at quarterback as a freshman, but he's asked to do too much. He just is. And we all love Malik Washington. We all think he's going to be really good. But when your three backs average 3.5 yards per carry, it just isn't going to get the job done. It's just not. And I think our receivers are having a pretty good year, like Octavian Smith, 324 yards. Shalik Knotts, 305 yards. Jaleel Farouk, 233 yards. Like, I think our receivers are doing a pretty decent job. Dorian Fleming, 21 catches, 171 yards. Like, we're spreading it out. It's similar to how it's been in the past with the Maryland receiving game. But we've seen last year, we've seen in other years, it's just not always the recipe to win. And I think our lack of balance continues to hurt us. And I'd like to see Mike Locksley start to figure that out. I don't know what needs to happen. I don't know if we need more quarterback design runs. I don't know if we need more jet sweeps, like plays like that, cheeky runs that you can do. But right now, it's just not getting it done. Let's talk about the early line for the Nebraska game and some early thoughts. We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by The Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home. Whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your team's fan bases, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that you've been rooting in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. There's a lot of local spots in my neighborhood that have been the heart of the community for years. It's the kind of place where you walk in and everyone knows your name. Sports are something that brings neighborhoods together. Whether it's gathering a game day ritual, celebrating with the best wings in town, or just being part of the fan bases that call this place home. When we show up as a community, it can mean big businesses for local business owners. Money spent in the neighborhood and stays in the neighborhood. Square is proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/lockedOnCalls to learn more. But before you do, support your favorite neighborhood spots. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. College football's back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app is made super simple, and I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster and cheaper and less stressful than any other way I brought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app current account. Use code OTTSONCOLLEGE for $20 off. First purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. So I wanted to give my kind of way too early thoughts on this game against Nebraska. And I think this Maryland season so far, I think we're out of the honeymoon phase. We're out. We took the first loss. We still 4-1. I think I would take that before the season. We're 1-1 in Big Ten play, which honestly for us isn't that bad with really when you consider your roster. But when you say we're up 20-0 against Washington, it's definitely like, dang, easily could be 5-0 right now. Could probably be ranked. Could be in a really good spot. But instead, we're 4-1 with a big home game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who I think have a really good football team this year. And I just checked out the line, 7 points. Nebraska's favored by 7 points against Maryland, and Maryland's at home. So a team that's, I think, a little bit better than Washington. I think the line shows that they're just a little bit better than Washington. I think arguably, I don't know, like I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but you could argue that they might have the best quarterback in the conference, the most pure, talented quarterback in the conference. I think you have an argument for it. I'm not saying it's completely true, but I think that you have an argument that Dylan Raiola is the best quarterback in the conference. So last week I talked about Damon Williams versus Malik Washington. Now we're getting another young quarterback battle. True sophomore Dylan Raiola versus freshman Malik Washington. A really big matchup that a lot of Big Ten folks will definitely have their eye on. But I did want to talk about the early line. I kind of want to give my thoughts. Will it go up? Will it go down? Does it make sense? To me, it makes sense, to be completely honest. It makes sense. I mean, think about the Washington line. We lost by 4. I know we were up 20-0, but when you kind of put all that away and you're like, okay, Washington probably didn't play well at first. Maryland was playing pretty solidly. But the fact that Washington was able to come back down 20-0 tells you a lot. Like, if you're truly the better football team than Washington, which I don't think Maryland is, if the team's down 20-0 and you're the better football team, like it's a very, very, very small chance that you're able to win or you're able to lose that game. But I think we see this all the time in sports. If a team or a team that's supposed to win goes down by a lot of points, they can still get back into the game. And I'm not saying that Washington is much better than Maryland, but I think they're better than what Maryland is. So I think the line makes sense. I think the 7 points make sense. Again, I think Maryland football's in a weird spot because we don't have a huge sample size of Maryland playing like really good teams. I think Washington's the only one we would consider like a quality opponent. Wisconsin has just way too many problems right now with their program and what they're doing. But to be honest, they put up a pretty good fight against Michigan. Like, they kept it close, kept it a low scoring game. So maybe I should be respecting Wisconsin a little bit more, but they're 2-3. Like, they're not doing very much. And so I think I see the 7 points and I'm like, I get it. I do. And I think Nebraska is a better football team than us. I think they're very similar to us at the quarterback position. Like, I think Malik and Dylan Raiola compare as quarterbacks in terms of big time talent. Obviously, Raiola was the number 1 kid in his class. I think Malik Washington, if you now re-rank them, would be considered like what, top 3 quarterback in that class. Like, maybe you have Bryce over him. There's that kid at Cal, I think, that's playing really well, but there's not a ton of guys that I would say is better than Malik Washington right now. So I think it's similar. I think Nebraska reminds me a lot of what Nebraska reminds me of last year. Nebraska reminds me a lot of where Maryland is now. Like, where this Nebraska team is now, I hope Maryland can take that jump and be that type of program where Nebraska is now, where a lot of people just consider them a good quality team, a team that's going to be able to win a lot of games, get a bowl game, push maybe even for like a playoff type of bid. Like, I think Nebraska, I got to look at their schedule, but I think when you consider them, they have that 1 loss to Michigan, but I think they can beat anybody in the country on their best day. I don't think they're the best team in the country. I think they're a top 25 team in the country. So I think it makes sense. I think Maryland can win the game, but I think Nebraska is a better football team than us. And I do think it's interesting. I do think a lot of what Nebraska did last year, recruit very well and then make a jump, I think it's exactly what we kind of want Maryland to do. So I think the program compares a lot to Maryland. I think it's a little bit more pedigree, a little bit more money and those different things. But I do think where Nebraska is right now is like where I kind of want Maryland next year. We'll see what happens, but it's just a similar type of program to me. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.